I built my entire portfolio in my 20s using the BRRRR strategy with a line of credit.
Yeah.
Like I just recycled a line of credit. Didn't even have cash. I just
Yeah.
recycled a line of credit. So it's like
Yeah.
that's what I love helping people do. So you don't have to like wait every 2 years to buy one. You can buy 6 in a year or 20 in a year and just keep recycling.
If you're a real estate agent earning $200,000 a year and you want to grow your passive income, this show is for you. Learn secrets other agents use and hear from experts in our field who will guide you on your journey to investing in assets like apartment communities so you can take your commissions and turn them into cash flow. Here's your host, Randal. Let's dive in.
Hey, welcome back. It is great to have you again. Today, my guest is Wyatt Simon. Guy's a beast. Like, I really enjoy the conversation because we talk about his ramp up in single family, getting into multifamily, getting back into single family. So it rings true to me because that's kind of something that's been happening on our front as well, just due to the headwinds that are currently facing the multifamily market. Not saying it's a bad investment or it's not a long-term play, but currently right now it's very challenging to buy multifamily. So it's refreshing to speak to somebody who has gone through the process of building up a single family portfolio, buying some multifamily deals, and then seeing how long the payout is on those deals and moving back into the single family deal atmosphere. So Wyatt's in the Omaha, Nebraska market. Really interesting to see what he is currently working on and the way he is taking a single deal. We talk about this at length and trying to squeeze as much profit out of that single deal as he possibly can. The way he's doing that is through partnering with a title company, creating a hard money lending company, and having a property management company, getting his real estate license, all these things so that every single deal that he gets into his pipeline, he's able to take to one of his buyers and nurture that buyer all the way through the closing process, from the acquisition of his wholesale to them all the way through to his listing their property and selling it for them on the MLS once they have finished their rehab. So if you're looking for that type of strategy, it is a great episode. You're going to get a lot out of it. Wherever you're listening to this, please go on, rate and review. Helps us out a ton to bring on awesome guests just like Wyatt. All right, let's jump into the conversation. Here we go.
I'm an investor and I just got my license like 2 weeks ago.
All right.
I'm like, might as well get it. There's so many advantages that come from having it. So I'm a recently licensed realtor, but really I do this, not really, I kind of moved away from multifamily. Like I own 178 units, 150 of those, or I don't know. I own 48 houses, but we do mostly houses. And that's kind of my primary acquisition strategy is off-market houses, wholesale, fix and flip, BRRRR. And like BRRRR is like that's what I've built everything around. So yeah.
My man, I'm like, okay, you went from single family to multifamily back to single family. Let's start right there. Honestly, I just like, tell me why, how did this happen? Because I know for myself why it happened, but go ahead. You tell me, because I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. So for multifamily, it was great in 2021. And then 2022, it was pretty good. And then 2021, we took property management in-house. And I say we, I mean, I started a management company, which was, holy smokes, over my head. But I had to learn a lot of skills. And eventually I hired a consultant. And that was the last time I ever said, I'm not going to do things without a consultant. Like that was, really shifted my trajectory. But there's not a lot of money in property management. And I also left my W-2 in 2021 to start a management company thinking I was financially free. And long story short, like when you're raising capital for multifamily, when you're doing all that stuff, like it sounds sexy, it sounds cool. You got these big numbers, like you're in charge. They can even be great deals. Like I haven't done a bad deal yet, but like you don't get paid until the exit. You get paid a little bit until the exit. And it's like, I don't know about you, but I'm a long-term buy and hold. So it's like, man, it sounds cool, but you got to have something that's going to like really generate cash in the meantime.
Yeah.
Because the cash flow is such a minor piece of real estate. There's really the equity, the appreciation, and the tax benefits. Those are the big three, in my opinion.
Okay. So very similar story. I mean, I'd flipped houses and been doing things for a long, long time. And then in like 2020, I was like, all right, let's look at apartments. And I started kind of digging into it. But I really took a year to learn about funds and syndications and strategies along those fronts. I wasn't like actively going out trying to raise capital or do anything. And then when I got to the point where I was like, okay, Jake or Gino or local guys, and pulled the trigger on one, no one's like, hey, at that time, it wasn't a bad time, right? It wasn't a bad time to get into multifamily, but the underwriting still, if you look back on it now and you look at like, we're going to underwrite 12%, maybe 15% annual rent growth. Like that's insane. It's not normal, right?
Right. And we're going to exit at a 5 or 6 cap.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now look
Yeah.
at what rates are.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
I looked at it and I said the same thing. I was like, all right, so I'm going back. I'm going to do a ton of houses and just, start build the pipeline again, just on that front, and start looking for other assets as well. So I'm kind of curious, have you looked at other assets other than single family now that, or sorry, other than multifamily now that you have kind of dipped your toe in the water of buying some of those?
Well, yes and no. So I own one commercial building, which I haven't looked into massively. It was just kind of a deal that dropped in our lap that was a home run. And it was like, why not? Right. So we did that all from our drop off market stuff. And then I did a 44 unit storage facility that again was like a home run, but we eventually just exited it because it was such a, like for me, storage was not a pleasant experience because 44 units is just not worth it. Like there's so many systems that you have to do, and it's not like property management where you can just click a button and post to 36 websites and get leads. Like you really have to market, radio, like signs, like you have to find and market a lot more than property management. So
Okay.
for me, storage is worth it if you're on like 200 plus, but we happily exited storage because I'm literally chasing people for like $60 and $100 rents, and like our late fees are more than that. It's
Yeah.
like, this is just
Well,
not worth it. Like,
yeah. Yeah.
so I also do coach. So like now, like one of the things I love doing is helping people build rental portfolios, mostly
Yeah.
single family. And it's just like a lot of people come to me because they're like, how do I build the portfolio without putting 20% down every time?
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of real estate agents that I work with have that question. And it's like, dude, I built my entire portfolio in my 20s using the BRRRR strategy with a line of credit.
Yeah.
Like I just recycled a line of credit, didn't even have cash. I just
Yeah.
recycled a line of credit. So it's like,
Yeah.
that's what I love helping people do. So you don't have to like wait every 2 years to buy one. You can buy 6 in a year or 20 in a year and just keep recycling.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So how big was that line of credit? Just real quick. And
It
then
was a 200K line of credit that I
um,
just kept recycling.
so could you buy two at one time?
Yeah,
Or
I could buy, well, at first I thought one, and then eventually I was able to, okay, I can use that as a down payment. So now I
yeah.
was able to buy four,
Yeah.
right? And then
Got
just
it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
rock.
Solid. Yeah, because I mean, to buy 20 in a year, you've got to be really turning capital, and that 200,000 has to be at work. So yeah, that's interesting. All right, let's go back then. Let's kind of build the story from the beginning. Right, you're working W-2 job, and at the same time, you start buying all these houses. Okay, so kind of walk through. I know that your dad was investing in stocks, and you guys had some hardship in like 2002, 2008. How did
Yep.
that play into your one, I guess, going and get a secure job? Did that play anything into that? And then investing in real estate, how did that come about from seeing that backstory?
Yeah, you've done your research. I'm impressed. But yeah, so my parents, I mean, my dad worked hard and he got burned in 2000. And then in 2008, he lost, 50 to 60% of his portfolio twice because he sold at the bottom. And I also popped out when my mom was 41. So they were like ready for retirement. And then I was the whoopsie, right? Or the surprise.
Yeah.
And so, they weren't able to retire until recently. So that was like not a fun experience to live through. So I knew that there had to be something that was like some kind of good investment because my parents worked hard. They lived below their means, but like couldn't retire. And it's like, what the heck? And so eventually I found out real estate through Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I was like, these assets can generate money while you sleep. So you don't have to work. It's like, well, why did my parents work all of their life then? And so eventually found real estate. And then eventually I was like, okay, well, how do I buy these assets to generate cash flow for me when I don't have any money? And so I found out about this BRRRR strategy thing. And then I was like, oh my God, that's my ticket. And so now I just had to find out, okay, how do I do this initial purchase? And that was when, I didn't have any money. I was 22 at the time, but I went to my parents and I said, hey, I know you guys don't have any money either, but you have your house paid off in cash. Like, could I take a line of credit on your house and do this BRRRR strategy thing? And they said, absolutely not.
I was going to say, that's nuts.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, they said no. It took me 9 months of going to meetups and educating myself and
Yeah.
showing them that like, hey, this thing is working. And simultaneously, I had a job and I bought a duplex with my own funds. And so
There
I
you
was
go.
able to start house hacking and really kept showing them how all these others investors were doing it. And eventually they took a flyer and they said, okay, we'll try it one time. And it was on that house that it was my 46th offer on market to find. And then after I finally got it and closed on it, it took me 6 months. I rehabbed it myself with a buddy. And guys, I'm not handy like at all, but one of my buddies was. And so I said, hey, I'll pay you $25 an hour. Like I'll buy you a new tool set and I'll work for you for free. Like you just tell me what to do and we'll do this thing. So for 6 months after work, we worked on the house and I threw my back out on it. Like all the things happened,
Yeah.
but I learned. And then at the end of it, it appraised out. I had to pay $2,000 to buy that house. So I didn't burr out all the way, but I
Yeah.
burred out everything except $2,000. So I paid my parents back everything that they had, plus they got 50% equity, plus they got 5% interest, like they got 9% interest on their money. And so they were happy. And then I was happy I got the house, and we were off to the races, proof of concept.
Yeah,
And
that's awesome, man. So many little stories in there. I'm sure it's just like, yeah, that first deal, having buddies go out and rehab it with you. So do you still own that property?
I do. I just posted about it today. It just came
Yeah.
up. It was like 7 years ago to the day.
Yeah.
that
Right on. Well,
got done.
congrats, man. That's awesome. And so you took that first one, took you 6 months, start to finish, till you were, I guess, moved in or had it repaid. And then from there, how long did it take you to actually go and like ramp up and do your, okay, I can do this like 4 at a time, right?
Yeah. Well, I want to say like right after, but it would be a lie. Like, keep in mind, I was like 22, maybe 23 by the time I got done with it, and with no coaching and no experience. And so my next property, which would have been my third property, because I got the duplex and then I got this one, my third property, which was the second flip I ever did, was the Purple Palace. And this is like, God, I hate this house. But it was, it was all purple on the outside. I got it from a wholesaler. And so then I go in to do the rehab. I'm like knocking down the plaster and lath on the inside when the city inspector comes in and says, where's your permit for this? And I was like, what's a permit? And then he continued to educate me on what a permit was, as well as what a red tag is. So I got to pay 4X for permits for that property. And then it was a blessing in disguise, but I had to go find licensed contractors to do the work. And that took me 11 months to do that rehab because I didn't have the skill set of hiring and I didn't know who to hire. And so I had to go through and recycle a few of them and then get them working with the city. And that rehab went from 20,000 to 60,000. And then finally the tenant moves in and I get a call saying, hey, Wyatt, it smells like piss and shit downstairs. Like it smells bad. And they're like, I was like, okay. So I go to check it out and there is piss and shit downstairs.
Sewer
And
break.
I'm like, yeah, the sewer was Orangeburg pipe built in World War I. And basically Orangeburg pipe is paper mache. So the entire sewer line from the house to the street had to be redone. And it didn't stop there. It had to go into the street. So we actually had to physically take out the street and repave the asphalt on it. So that was another 14.6 thousand after they moved in. So that was my learning lesson. I spent about, $56.4 thousand more than I thought I was going to spend on that property. Thankfully, the market went up while that was happening. And I bought it pretty right. And so I was able to burr out most of it. But that was a very painful 11-month long stressful experience to break me in because my first one went decent.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that sounds like a long learning experience on that. Good for you for sticking with it after that. Seriously, because that would have turned many people off of investing in general in single family real estate. I think. So how did you mentally come back from that? You're like, oh, well, I got my money back. So I guess that was the win, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, how did you come back? Yeah.
Thanks, man. I don't know. I guess I just think that, the winners just keep learning and don't give up, right? You succeed as long as you keep going. And so at that point, it'd be so silly to quit because you already got the learning curve in, like you paid the learning tax. Why quit now?
Yeah.
Solid. So I don't know. At that point, then things started to work well where I started to buy 2 at a time and do 2 BRRRRs. And then things started to ramp where that was going well. And the bottleneck that I ran into was how do I find good deals? Because like these wholesaler deals, they were making their margin. I was like, I can't really find these great deals anymore because I still got to burr out most, if not all my money. And that was when I set up a direct to seller system with a business partner. And that's full circle real estate. It's what we do now.
Yeah.
And that was when we were able to buy 20 plus houses a year. And this year we were on track for more than that. So.
Yeah. Solid. Okay. So you ramped up, and before you got into multifamily, how many did you have and where were you on everything?
I probably owned 18 to 20 houses at that point.
Yeah.
But we were probably buying 4 to 5 a month and then wholesaling or flipping a few of them because we had to pay for marketing. So we were burring out, 2 or 3 and then flipping the others.
Yeah, it's crazy. So do you still do direct to seller?
Yes. We restarted at the beginning of 2024.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask because that obviously I was talking to somebody earlier today and it was the same thing. It's like, super expensive. The way they do it is all cold call and texting now. And so
Mm.
his cost to do, I think it was like 15 deals wholesale per month, plus he's buying about 10. He has 10 rehabs going at the same time. I was like, man, that's crazy. Like, what are you spending on your marketing? Because for us to do that, it was costing us $50,000, $60,000 a month in marketing. And he's like, 10 grand. So
Wow.
that's his anyway. So I was curious if you had ramped that back up, or if you were going to, because when you take that cost into account, like you could pay the wholesaler their fee essentially. So, like, do you enjoy the marketing side of it? Do you enjoy the direct to seller and the negotiation? Because it's really like another business on top of a business.
Right. And I think obviously a lot of your agents or a lot of your audience is real estate agents, right? So I think
Yeah.
everyone has their unique ability. And so for me, I love the negotiating. I love the appointments. Like sales to me is like what amps me up.
Got
And
it.
so for a long time, I was chasing like this fancy, like I'm going to live off of cash flow and I'm going to sit on a beach and I'm going to do nothing. And then after going through this multifamily journey and like I still own 48 houses, like cash flow is not terrible, but it's not like amazing if you use the BRRRR strategy and leverage everything.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I love this. I'm going to continue to do this. And that's my unique ability is do that. And so if you're
Yeah.
a real estate agent and your unique ability is doing real estate agent sales, then do that and pay the wholesaler, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause to your point, it is work. It's a lot of
Yeah.
work and
Yeah.
we do spend a lot of money in marketing, but we have generally a 3 to 5x on what we spend.
Yeah. So what about are you spending on marketing?
We were spending about 5,000 a month and we're ramping up to 14.5 right now.
Really? Yeah. Yeah. And the main driver is there one you're like, this is our, bread and butter?
I would say postcards is our bread and butter.
Yeah. That's kind of like, it worked in San Antonio. We tried doing all kinds of different things, but that was like the number one. We tried PPC and some other stuff, but for whatever reason in our market, that's what it was. Have you ever tried the texting and the cold calling and all that business, or is that?
We hired a marketing agency that was doing that for us and it was working, but it wasn't as good as driving for dollars is what we
Yeah.
were doing. And so at this point now we're doing everything except cold calling and texting. We're adding PPC and then we've got SEO that's going pretty well. So
Yeah.
we're starting to rank up and get free leads, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's the way to do it. Okay. So you built up, you got 20 houses or so. You guys you're working on it. And then you decide shiny object, multifamily, like, is that what happened? Tell me how that thought process goes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I think everyone inherently wants to get to multifamily. Like everyone's like scalability, it's awesome. It's cooler to brag about all the things. And my first deal it was an off market through a family member. We bought a 23 unit, seller financed, like amazing first deal. Could not have been better. Right. And people hear that and they're like, oh man, I also have a story of like how I lost $1 million on a 48 unit that came my way that I didn't know how to underwrite. And then he wanted to sell it to me for 2.4 and it sold for 3.4. Like, so I was like, okay, I'll never miss out on that opportunity again. And then this opportunity came. So for everyone out there, I did miss out on a big one.
I was going to say, yeah, I know you said you had a deal and you just didn't know how to underwrite it. Is that 2.1 or 2.4 or something that, yeah.
Yeah, it was on that deal. Like I'll give the abridged full story, but essentially I was working for a foundation company. The guy calls me out we got a lead, I go out there to do a waterproofing estimate. I meet with some guy that's cussing and smoking. Like I think it's the maintenance tech. Eventually he signs the contract to do the work and I realize that he's the owner. And I'm like, do you want to do this? Cause he hates it. Like tenants are approaching him and he's just like cussing at him. And I'm just like, okay. And he hates it. And so he was a motivated seller and he's like, yeah, no, my parents, like I inherited this property. I've been doing the maintenance for 30 years. I just don't want to be here. And I was like, okay, well, I'd be interested. And this was while I was doing the Purple Palace. So this was like early on in my journey.
Yeah.
And I had no idea how to underwrite. And eventually, he ended up calling me a week later, like, hey, are you going to do this or not? And eventually I was like, hey, I'm probably not the guy for you. I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
And that property sold not like 6 months after for 3.4.
Dang, yeah, that's crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
So that was the like kick in the butt you needed to go and learn about multifamily essentially. And that you're like, wow, those numbers look great. I'm going to do this.
Yep.
Okay.
And so then I got into it and did a 23 unit with a partner. It went well. We then partnered on another one, a 12 unit. It went well, or sorry, a 9 unit. And that one went well. And so then we bought a 12 unit and that one we probably overpaid for. Because again, I didn't have coaching for it. I was just kind of like, I was partnering with somebody with an experience in my market. And so they were helping, but
Yeah.
they weren't helping that much. We'll
Yeah.
just say
Yeah.
that. And
Well, so
so eventually that led me to getting coaching on multifamily and then kind of chasing that shiny object for a while until 2023, things dried up. And it was like, I felt like I was beating my head against a wall running these numbers
yeah.
and not getting anything accepted.
Yeah. 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 Very similar boat, man. So on the ones that you bought, though, the ones that you actually did close on, are those still in your portfolio, or did you sell those things off? So you're long term on those.
Yep.
Did you
Long term.
syndicate? Did you just traditional finance those with your own money? Like, what'd you end up doing with those things?
So the first 56 units that I bought with my own money. It was just me and a buddy.
Yeah.
And so we went 50-50 and we still own it. We're long-term buy and hold. And honestly, for everyone listening, that is the best way to do it, in my opinion. But then if you have experience, if someone has experience, if you don't have experience, then you probably shouldn't be getting into it. But anyway, so that was my first one. And eventually we ran out of cash, as people do. And so then we had another deal come up and we started syndicating. And
Yeah.
so I've syndicated 2 deals and those are going well. But yeah, they don't pay out until the end. So yeah.
That's what I want to clarify. So the best way to do it was, I couldn't tell if you were saying 50-50 with somebody else or if you meant just buying it with your own money rather than bringing on investors to do the deal. So you mean it's easier doing it with your own money?
Yeah. If you can do it without a bunch of people involved, it's usually better in my opinion.
So if you're listening and you want to be a limited partner, any deal, maybe give some explanation from an operator's point of view as to why that is the case. Because it's hard. Being an operator is hard. Like running these projects is hard. Raising capital is hard.
But it's just a lot. And like, I would say most of our limited partners have been great to work with, but you know, if it's your like last 50,000, you probably shouldn't put it into a syndication, right? Like it's important for the operators to screen who they're raising capital with. So that way the entire group is on board with the vision and it doesn't have any, you know, mix ups or friction on it. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So it's also like, if you look at the numbers from a syndicator's point of view, and I had another guest on and he was talking about this. He was like, if you buy one single family house with your own money, you're going to be that's going to impact you more financially than if you are a 0.001% owner of some like 6,000 unit project. I was like, yes, that's true.
Just to touch on that subject, I mean, it really, you really got to do an audit of where you want to be with your investment portfolio with your time, right? Like if you don't have time and you're crushing your real estate business, then invest in syndications all day long. Just vet the operator, make sure they're good and they know what they're doing. If you have time and you want to like take control, then that's when you can start to implement like your own stuff and build your own portfolio. But no, it's going to take time, right? And sometimes it's, you know, you got to do an inventory of yourself and see where is your time best spent.
Yeah, for sure. Having started a property management company, how are you feeling about that now? Because again, it was something that we were looking at doing, me and the wife, and I was going to have her come in and do some of the things. And we were just going to have all the units that we have in-house. And I asked a number of people, I was like, is it worth it? You know? So having done it, you know, how do you feel about it? And are you getting enough benefit from having the control over it to offset the time and energy that goes into it?
So I'm happy that I did it, looking at it in the, you know, 30-year period.
Yeah.
Right. So if I look at it just in my emotional, like my last 3-year period where I had to do all of the setup and all of the hiring and firing and the everything, like that was tough, especially because I went from making a lot of good money in my job to running a company that I worked more and got paid way less, you know?
Yeah.
So it was like tough for the short term, probably not worth it for a lot of people. But I know that I'm entering my 30s here and I'm going to be owning real estate for another 50 years or so, hopefully. And so, you know, at the end of the day, now we've got like one of the best, if not the best property management companies in Omaha, and we're running it super efficiently without much of my time involved. And thanks to my incredible team.
That's
so
awesome.
Worth it in the long run.
Yeah, yeah. So is the management team focused on small multis and single family, or what are you guys focused on?
Single family and multifamily, smaller multifamily. Our biggest complex is 54 units.
Okay. Yeah, there is curious how you find this, because there's a gap in the market. Anything sub like 80 units, it seems like there's not really a good property management style or structure. And I don't know if you found that when you were looking for third party, or if you even looked for third party for the smaller units. So
Yeah,
what have
I
you
did.
guys done? Yeah. Obviously, bringing it in house is helpful for all the 48 doors that you have that are just standalone, single families. But what have you done that's allowed you to capture that 50 and under market as well? Like, what kind of systems do you have to put in place? What kind of tech do you have? What are you doing?
So we use AppFolio for our CRM.
Okay.
And then we've modeled a lot of our stuff off of Jake and Gino. So their move-in process, they're like, we do a $495 move-in fee and then an assurance bond instead of a security deposit. So that's huge because it goes to our bottom line. But I don't know, just overall systems, I rip off and duplicate as much as I could.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of the coaching programs out there, like I couldn't rip off and duplicate as much as I thought I could. And so eventually we hired a consultant that really helped set things up from the get-go.
Somebody local to you or somebody that like Jake and Gino told you about?
It was something through Jake and Gino.
Yeah.
I'll give her a shout out. Monica Windham from Ram Consulting was freaking awesome. So she had done 3,000 plus units for over a decade. And she was, so she's really good about helping property management companies vertically integrate.
Okay. Yeah. We'll put a link to her in the show notes. If anybody's looking for it. Anything that you're working on right now? Like, what's the most interesting thing you're working on right now?
So right now, since we're getting volume, so we're closing about a deal a week right now for single family off market.
Yep.
And it's really awesome because we're providing opportunities for other investors. We're wholetailing properties. And on that front, now we're getting ownership of a title company. We've set up a hard money line. And so we're really taking a vertical where we have one transaction that, is netting us X amount of dollars. And we've doubled, if not tripled, that transaction by being able to find it, wholesale it, own title company, hard money finance it. I have my real estate license. I can list it on the back end if someone's looking to flip it. And so these are all ways that we can take one transaction and just 4X it. And I do coaching, so I can help my students provide them deals and then help them with all the other pieces, which is, it's awesome because we get off market deals. And so everyone's like, how are you closing these deals? It's like, well, my students get first shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Solid. All right. So let's go back to the title company then. How did this come about? Like, for a long time, we were doing tons and tons of deals, right? We were doing, I say tons, I don't know. A lot of people do a lot more deals than we were doing, but it was like 50 to 60 deals a year, right? That we're wholesaling, flipping, doing whatever. And my wife at the time was like, we got to look into this title company deal. And we never actually closed that gap on the, how do you do it to actually implementing it. So like walk through the process of doing that. And just in general, like just, I guess, 30,000 foot view of it.
So maybe we got lucky. I don't know, but we'll take it. So I used 3 different title companies in my market. And I was like, we had issues with every single one of them. I was like, how hard is it to do title?
Yeah.
Right. And so eventually one of the investors in my market that we were wholesaling to that was doing a ton of volume, right? He's like, use this company. And so we started using this title company and they just were so awesome to work with. They were an owner operator and the gal that owned it was just crushing deals. Like she didn't sleep. She responded to everything. Like she even stepped in and saved some of our deals, right? When like some things happen, like she would like play dumb and like, she's awesome. So anyways, she was amazing to work with. And eventually she started doing JVs with other people that were doing volume. And because she wants to grow this to a national company, she's actually doing JVs nationally with people. So if you guys are interested, you really got to have 60 plus transactions a year, but I can definitely hook you up. So I'd say reach out to me if you are doing 60 plus and we can get you involved with that.
Yeah.
But high level view, they own and take care of everything. And then we get a percentage of the transaction volume. And the reason why it's so awesome is title is you make a little bit on the transaction fee. You make all of your money on the insurance, the title insurance.
Yeah.
So with how they set it up, it's a legal way to get part of that title insurance policy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're looking at it, your title policy, I don't know how many realtors actually look at those. You really should be, but on there, it clearly states how much is going to who. And and a percentage goes to the actual closers. And I'm sure that's what's being shared. Yeah, it's interesting. Are they licensed in all 50?
They're not yet, but they will do it per operator if they vet them and think it's good, then they'll set it up. And they've been doing it. They're doing it in 3 states right now. 4 states.
So I love that again. And you're talking about the other side of it on the property management side, how you changed from taking security deposits and now you're just taking an app fee, like a $500 move-in fee. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, move-in fee. Yep.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so what's the policy that you're giving them? Because I've heard of Rhino, but what is it compared to, is it Rhino?
It's the same thing as Rhino. It's just called Assurant. The reason why I like
Okay.
Assurant better is because they will do a fee up front rather than a monthly recurring. Rhino is, $15 a month
Yeah.
forever. Assurance, like a one time, depends on your credit score, but it's usually like 90 to $400 depending on your credit score.
Yeah.
And so they just pay that once and then they're good to go.
Yeah. And then that covers you if anything happens to it. Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay. So I love that. All right, let's move on. I want to talk hard money then. So you're in the process of hard money. Like, what are you guys on a transaction volume basis trying to accomplish there?
This is fresh.
Fresh. All right.
It's
All right.
fresh. So we just started doing loans like last month and we just
Okay.
got a line set up. So now we can arbitrage that line, right?
Yep.
Some people are just, getting the deal and then brokering it to someone with the capital, but we're actually, arbitraging it. So
Mhm.
yeah, right now it's fresh in our market, but it's seems like a really easy business model. Obviously, you got to vet the borrower to make sure. And right now we're just not lending on any project that we don't feel comfortable taking over in case something were to happen.
Yeah.
But I know it's not common in most markets, but in Omaha, it's actually really common for people to lend 100% of purchase and even 100% of rehab. And so
Is that
we're
what you
doing
guys are
that.
doing?
We're doing that with borrowers that are repeat customers that we know and trust.
Yeah.
With newer borrowers, we'll do 100% of purchase and kind of vet them a little bit more.
On the rehab side.
Yeah.
How difficult was that to set up?
Not hard. We
Yeah. Get a
there's
name,
somebody,
hang a shingle.
yeah, somebody else was doing it in our market, and so we just got set up with the same bank, and
Mhm.
they're like, yeah, you guys want to do the same thing? You've got equity in your portfolio. We can just take it out on the line and use that to put to work. So
Nice.
I was like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think just having looked at that model, one of my first private lenders, guy has, I don't know, 40 million anytime out on the street and like lent out of his
Wow.
money. And talking to him and seeing his business, he at one point was like, I need somebody to come help me with this, take over. And so I looked at how it was set up, how he had structured it. Like he has the best opportunity to see deal flow of anyone that I know. Absolutely. I mean, he knows anybody that's trying to get finance on anything. And so it's a solid move for that reason, because if as a lender, I mean, it's different if you're going 100% of the purchase price, but even that you should be, deep in the money. Should they not fix the property up, you should be deep in the money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like another lead source. So kudos to you for setting that thing up. That's awesome. List on the back end, like all these things. The reason I'm asking about all these things is because you're just like stacking like little, things that they're not all little, but they're things that take one deal, because that deal is so difficult to find, acquire, to obtain. Once you have it, like milk it for everything that you possibly can and be that source. So I love how you have structured this. It's awesome, man. It's very
Thanks,
cool.
man. And I'm not smart, just so you know. Like there's a guy that wholesaled me a deal like 3 years ago in our market,
Yeah.
and he did the same thing. He wholesaled the deal. I saw the assignment fee on the closing. I'm like, dang, he made 40 grand on this.
Yeah.
And then he hard money financed the entire thing, and then he offered to list it for me, but I ended up selling it to a different investor and just making a little bit. But
Yeah.
so smart, such a smart business model.
Okay, so think about that then. He had 40 that he didn't even have to see. So he was in it for his price, right? He was already in it super deep.
100%. Yeah.
It's like owner financing your wholesales is essentially what it is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Owner.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, very cool. And then you got coaching. So real fast, high level, like your coaching. Who are you targeting? Just new investors that are trying to get into the rental game, or what's your main focus on the coaching side?
Yeah, my main focus are investors that have already done 1 or 2 deals and they're really looking to add gas to the fire. Like they don't want to wait to do 1 or 2 deals a year. They want to do, 4 and then 5 and then 10 and then 20 deals a year, because most people think that they're capped with the down payment, right? And it's like, or they're capped with the deal flow. It's like, no, like you can do all of the things. You just have to learn finance and you have to learn how to run the numbers, and then you have to learn how to delegate. And if we can do those 3 things for you, like the world is your oyster. You can do any deal and you can get deals sending to you, and you keep your day job and just start crushing real estate on the back end.
So this is a scratch my own itch question, but like, what are you charging and like, how are you setting that up? How are you promoting it? Because, and like, do you have, is it book based or is it mentor based? Like I'm going to get on a call with you. I'm going to walk a property with you. I'm going to like, what is it set up? How's that structured?
Once a quarter, I do a group cohort. And so I take 10 people that want to go crush real estate, and that's called the Millionaire Accelerator Program. And so literally we take you and say, hey, I want to become a millionaire. This is how to do it. And so you get all the education that's pre-recorded, plus you get one call a week with me, one to group, where you can ask live Q&A, live deal analysis. It's just like, I'm there to help you make sure you scale and get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
And like, dude, our first student was Alejandro de Donda, which you can look him up. The dude's 23 years old. He's got 12 units already. He started the program with 11 or with 3. And then he got done with 11 in 12 weeks. And it was just like, I'm not that great, guys. Like I promise, like he's a stud, but he didn't know how to negotiate like seller financing into a few leads that he already had. And so we were able to set up seller financing so he didn't have to bring much cash. And like, that's one of the things is a lot of people think you have to have the cash. You don't, you just have to know how to use leverage or negotiation or seller financing to get deals.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Love what you got going on, man. That's very cool. It's inspiring.
Thanks,
makes me want to go out and do more deals. So
well, I think you're doing just fine, brother.
We're doing all right. We're doing okay. Well, hey man, look, I've like enjoyed the conversation. Great getting to know you. If anybody's trying to do any kind of deals, man, like I'm going to have your contact information in the show notes. They can reach out direct to Wyatt here. Again, thanks for jumping on, sharing your knowledge and diving into your business.
Yeah. Appreciate you having me, Randall. It's been fun.
All right. Have a good one. Did you know that 80% of the agents we speak with got into real estate in order to gain passive income so they could obtain financial freedom and become work optional? If you want to stay up to date, the best way is to make sure you're subscribed. So if you haven't done that, go ahead and do it now. We'll catch you on the next episode.